Your mouth's bleeding. Are you sure you're all right?
What the... My mouth's bleeding, Bert! My mouth's bleeding! Do those pedals. There they are! Bert! What do you know about that? Merry Christmas!
Wow. What a movie. Thanks for listening to us today. I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the movie It's a Wonderful Life. It's brought so much joy to me over the years, and I keep coming back to it and back to it and back to it. And it's a little odd for a movie for someone in 2025 to say that this is their favorite movie, but I don't believe I've watched one particular movie more often than I've watched It's a Wonderful Life. You know, each holiday season, I'm reminded that the torture I get to inflict on my family by subjecting them to this 1940s black and white classic is really the gift that keeps on giving for me. My sister shares my love for this movie, but the other people in the family, yeah, it's debatable. You know, they make an effort and they play along with my tradition, but nevertheless, each year I curl up on the couch, I pour myself a strong drink, and I hit play. I try my best to hide the hurt deep in my soul when they roll their eyes at the opening credits and then commence to fall fast asleep, even before Clarence makes his grand entrance. You know, one of these days, I'll break through their cold, dead hearts. Until then, whether it's the 50th or the 100th time I see it, I'll bawl uncontrollably when the closing credits roll. You know, like Pavlov's dog, cue up some Auld Lang Syne, and my chin instinctively starts to quiver. But you know, what exactly is it that connects me so deeply with this particular movie? I think maybe it's that so many of us can relate to old George Bailey. I sure know I can. When we are first introduced to him, George is this vibrant young man with big hopes and big dreams. George is ready to conquer the world, build things, travel, make his mark on the world, and strike out into the great unknown, seeking fame, fortune, and adventure all along the way. I was once a young George Bailey, but that's often not how life works for us humans as we navigate the real world. Like so many of us, George elects to put the needs of others before his own, ultimately sacrificing his personal ambitions to stay and run the family business right there in boring little Bedford Falls. As the days drag on, George starts feeling the same growing sense of frustration and resentment that many of us experience. He's anxious. He feels overwhelmed. He feels trapped in someone else's story and deeply unfulfilled. He struggles with the conflicts between his personal desires and his sense of obligation. He suffers from moments of despair and real mental health issues. He's lost his way. And he can't seem to recognize the value in his seemingly ordinary life. I think many of us can relate. George finally achieves personal enlightenment thanks to some help from his guardian angel. In the end, George's life serves as a reminder that true wealth lies not in material possessions or grand achievements, but in the love and connections we share with each other. Quite the lesson all of us would do good to remember. Man, it's such a spectacular movie, regardless of what my children think. For this podcast, I want to dig in on one specific part of this movie that has always nagged at me from the background. It's a small but very meaningful part of the story, and one that I've underestimated until now. I started contemplating this part of the story when, only weeks ago and unsolicited, my daughter helped me create the brand for The Story of Us. The minute she showed me her first draft logo, I was hooked. She nailed it. The logo immediately reminded me so much of It's a Wonderful Life that I'm starting to believe she may like it more than she will admit. At least at minimum, something subconsciously is working on her. Few cinematic moments capture the fragile beauty of hope and longing like the moonlight stroll shared by George and Mary on their way home from the dance. During this scene, George famously asks Mary, "What is it you want, Mary? What do you want? You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down." This line is almost dreamlike in innocence, isn't it? But beyond its romantic whimsy, the story of lassoing the moon serves as a powerful symbol in this masterpiece. It encapsulates themes of sacrifice, yearning, and the quiet heroism of just an ordinary life. When George offers Mary the moon, he's not just waxing poetic in hopes of getting past first base with her. The moon represents all the things George wishes he could give her, in addition to all the things he himself longs for, but feels are out of reach for him. At this point in the film, George still clings to dreams of leaving Bedford Falls. He clings to dreams of becoming a famous architect, of building airfields and skyscrapers. But the moon acts as a stand-in for George's desires. Things like freedom, ambition, and wonder. Everything George believes his life could be if he escapes the gravitational pull of his tiny, small town. The real beauty of George's promise to Mary, though, lies in its impossibility. Everyone knows he can't lasso the moon, and deep down he knows it too. But his willingness to dream it, to offer it up, speaks to the size of his heart. It's this expansive love, this instinct to give of himself entirely. It's this that forms the core of his character. It's a character I'm trying hard to emulate as I struggle to be a better version of myself. All these roles that I play, dad, employee, husband, friend, I'm trying to do better. As the film moves on, George finally reaches his breaking point. His dream of lassoing the moon seems laughably distant. He's faced with financial ruin and convinced he's failed everyone that he loves. He believes his life has amounted to nothing. It's all been done. Nothing left to do but hurl himself off the icy bridge and end his life. But isn't this the turning point the movie builds toward the whole time? It shows us viewers, and it has been for over 85 years, that it's not grand accomplishment that defines a wonderful life, but the accumulation of small, selfless acts. George may not have thrown a lasso around the moon, but he built homes. He saved lives. He gave people dignity, and he helped his community thrive. The promise he made to Mary wasn't about achievement. It was about love. And it's that love returned to him tenfold in the film's closing moments that really saves George from the pit of despair. Okay, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the movie, George never escapes Bedford Falls. He never becomes a famous architect or travels the world. But in choosing to stay, to love, to serve, he lassos something far greater than the moon. He creates a life of meaning. The lasso becomes symbolic not of capturing the unreachable, but of binding oneself to what matters most. And I think that's holding on tight to a life worth living. The 21st century world that so often equates value with achievement and success with notoriety. It's a Wonderful Life reminds us that a life lived with love, compassion, and quiet courage is far more than enough. Even in the movies, we can find examples of what we call here at the Story of Us comparative mythology. Human history is chock full of stories like this, where the moon symbolizes longing and love and the pursuit of the unreachable. These myths often reflect deep human emotions and universal truths, Especially our desire to connect with something much larger or more beautiful than ourselves. It keeps running through my head, and I got to get it out. When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie. That's amore. The Greeks gave us the story of Selene and Endymion. This is a story about eternal, everlasting love in the face of impossibility. The moon goddess Selene falls head over heels in love with the immortal Endymion. He's a poor shepherd. She visits him each night while he sleeps in an eternal slumber, granted to him so he may remain youthful forever. Their love is really suspended in a timeless, unreachable space. Kind of like George's dream of escape and adventure, Celine's love is idealized, perhaps perfect in fantasy land, but unreachable in reality. Both of these stories seem to speak to man's desire to preserve a dream, even if it cannot come fully alive. In other traditions, the stories told are of a rabbit who is said to live on the moon, placed there as a reward for a selfless act. In the Aztec version, the god Quetzalcoatl, I gotta work on that, disguised as a man, is offered food by a rabbit who sacrifices itself. Moved by the rabbit's humility, he places it forever on the surface of the moon to be captured in eternity. The rabbit's story mirrors George's self-sacrifice. George gives us dreams to help others, and like the rabbit, his impact becomes enduring, even if it's not celebrated in the way society typically honors success. There's a lot more stories like this. There's a Maori legend. In this, the moon asks the forest god Tane to join her in the sky, but he refuses. He selects the better option for him, and that's to remain on Earth. But this rejection causes a rift, and the moon becomes cold and distant. So, what's the connection to our protagonist, Mr. George Bailey? Tane's choice parallels George's decision to stay in Bedford Falls rather than change his dream among the stars. In both stories, the sky represents escape and grandeur, while the earth symbolizes duty and grounded love. Just like in the story of us, these stories are less about lassoing the moon and more about the longing itself and what it reveals about us. The moon reflects our highest ideals and our deepest sacrifices. And it shows us that even if we can't have the dream shapes who we become. And it's the pursuit of this dream that makes our days on earth so meaningful. I'm going to steal a line from my daughter's high school commencement speech, SHA class of 2023. Isn't it true that what makes life so grand is not the achievement of perfection, but our unwavering human efforts to reach perfection knowing it's impossible? Yeah. That moment made me pretty proud. She's listening. She's doing her best. She's doing it. So, there you have it. The lassoed moon in It's a Wonderful Life, and the lassoed moon in the logo for our project. Just a little glimpse into how those two things connect. Perhaps they are sending the same message out to humanity from across time and space. The same message that was painted on my son Brady's nursery room when he was a little boy. And that is, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, perhaps you will land among the stars.
You want the moon?
Thanks for listening to me
Just
today.
say the word and I'll throw a
Have a
lasso
good one.
around it and pull it down.